Herzlich willkommen zurück zu Sekimeya Spun Glass. Seit dem ersten Teil sind einige Tage vergangen und ich habe einiges vergessen. Aber es ist noch nicht so viel passiert, außer dass Rauch aufkam. So, jetzt wollen wir weitermachen. Also, nothing had changed apart from the walls and ceiling, which had been tainted by the smoke. As I confirmed that I was still in the event room, I tried to battle the intense headache mercilessly hammering me from the inside, focusing my vision in an attempt to spot Shiroya. Ach ja, für alle, die nicht wissen, was im ersten Teil passiert ist. Also, kurz gesagt, alle gingen in eine Ausstellung und dann kam Rauch und alle sind ohnmächtig geworden. Das war's Ende. There she was, still on the floor. She hadn't moved since I had blackened out. I used all the energy I could muster to try to rise, and after a few attempts I was able to sit up. Why I crawled to Shiroya, I looked behind me. As expected, Akaro's body still lay on the floor, but he was far from my first priority. I reached Shiroya and turned her to face me. Her eyes were half open and she seemed conscious, which was exactly what I needed to see. You... My sentence was cut off by dry coughing that took over my body. It seemed I had inhaled a bit of the smoke, but it might have meant that we hadn't been unconscious for a long time. Yes, I can think so. No, I think so. Her eyes opened fully and she tried to steady herself with an arm. That smoke, was it? Maybe. Listen. Listen, we'll find out what happened. Just stay there for a minute, okay? Do you feel okay? Yes. I could tell that she was barely keeping it together. She must have been afraid of the worst, just like I was, but that time we had woken up safely. I looked around me. It was a bizarre sight, and the disgusting smell was still present after the smoke had faded. The room had been painted black. Was? Also, ich weiß nicht. Nur weil da Rauch ist, heißt doch noch nicht, dass der Raum voll schwarz angemalt ist. The curtains, beautiful red, the walls, the ceiling, they had all been corrupted by an ugly dark color. Almost purple. Also, auf dem Screen hier sieht das nicht so aus, als wäre es so viel anders. The floor, however, had not received the same treatment. It had become gray, but was nowhere near the strong black that consumed the ceiling. And there was something much more important that I quickly noticed. Naomi's gone. She's not there. What? You're right. Where could she have gone? The door's open. The door opposite of the one we entered was very slightly ajar. Naomi could have woken up and left through it, maybe to understand what had happened after seeing that we were still knocked out. Moment mal. Moment, warte mal. So, oder kann es, war ich das letzte Mal so, dass der Rauch nur in dem Raum kam, also nur von diesem Raum kommt? Moment, warte. Ja, genau. Also der Rauch musste wohl von dem aus dem Raum kommen. Mit. Also schreiben wir es auf, dass der Rauch muss von entstanden sein, wo Sekimeya so. Kommen wir jetzt wohl zurück. The door opposite the one we entered was very slightly ajar. Naomi could have woken up and left through it, maybe to understand what had happened after seeing but we were still knocked out. Reaching that small conclusion took a lot out of me, but the headache was beginning to fade almost as quickly as it had come on. I noticed our voices had awoken Akaro, who still hadn't moved at all. What the fuck is this? Yeah. He felt his face with his hand as he grimaced. When he slowly grimaced? Was für eine Grimasse? Wer zur Hölle macht eine Grimasse, während man gerade aufsteht? When he slowly stood up and attempted to balance himself by perplexedly looking around him. Hey, what is all this? You said Naomi's gone? What the fuck just happened? I think a lot of smoke suddenly appeared out of nowhere, right? Did it knock us out? For the first time, he started a conversation with us. Before answering, I began to clean my face as the smoke had created a sticky mess on it as well. Wie kann man den Text irgendwie verbergen? Moment. Ja. Ah. Also so besorgt sieht der Minion auch wieder nicht aus. I have no idea, but yes, that smoke must have something in it that made us unconscious. Naja, dafür, dass der Rauch richtig stark war, sieht er nicht gerade unbedingt sehr schmutzig aus. Nur ein paar ich vergesse immer Wörter, nur ein paar Flecken. And a few seconds before I fainted, a very loud alarm went off. An alarm? I must have fallen unconscious too fast. I remember getting dizzy as hell out of nowhere and falling over. So, no, I don't think I heard it either. Did it say anything? No, it was only a loud sound. While I was still attempting to stand up, Akaro walked to the open door and looked through it. Oh, what the hell? Oh, what the hell happened here? It's dark in this room, but the hallways too. We're also seeing a black, and I can't see anymore. The hallway is covered. How much what was there? Okay. Das heißt, aber wie zum Fick kam der Rauch dann in den Raum? Da die Tür doch zu war. Das ist seltsam. Everyone must have evacuated when they heard the alarm, even though it came a bit after the smoke appeared. Did you see where the smoke came from? I didn't see anything, and there's nothing here. No, but you're right, it surrounded us in an instant, and it probably appeared in this room and in the hallways at the same time. Both of these doors were closed, so the origin had to have been here. Something must have happened while we were unconscious. Okay, da müssen es aber zwei parallele Feuer gegeben haben. Why are we alone though? We were police officers outside. Why have they come? I had no idea. Still a bit disoriented, I forced my neck to turn. The only thing in the room was a covered cabinet. However, I doubted the Sekimeya would still be there. The easiest conclusion to reach was that the smoke had been part of an attack designed to steal it. The smoke was released in other rooms in the hallway. Okay. Everything was giving me a surreal vibe. I had no idea what was going on, but at first glance, the danger seemed to have faded away. Okay, das ist seltsam, dass nur in dieser und in der Halle der Rauch war, aber nicht in den anderen Räumen. My headache was nearly gone, thankfully. That meant that I could start thinking things through. What had happened? Why had it happened? How was I going to find the person responsible? Maybe I was just trying to distract myself from reality by thinking things like that. But I had a personal stake in it. I couldn't forgive whoever was responsible. Shiroya probably felt the same way. We couldn't just ignore it, and someone was missing. The room was empty, and it had been empty before we had fallen unconscious. Only the cabinet had been with us. But if the smoke had come out of it, it wouldn't have surrounded us so fast. We had been stained, but not as much on the lower parts on our parties. The scene was significantly darkened, the floor not so much. The smoke density was low. Okay. Did it mean that the origin of the smoke happened in the very center of the room? How did that make any sense? Okay, whoa. Okay, whoa. Okay. Also, nur der obere Bereich war voller Rauch, aber nicht der untere Bereich. Warte, wie kommt man zum Schluss, dass der Rauch von dem Zentrum des Raums kommt? Oh. Ach ja, weil um die ganzen Rauch. Ja. Sure started silently. I reached out to try and hold her shoulder, but as my body was still recovering, both of us fell back to the floor. Moment. Also, der Rauch. Der ja. Sure staggered slightly. I reached out to try and hold her shoulder, but as my body was still recovering, both of us fell back to the floor. Without looking at us, Akaro walked to the door we had entered through. It happened here too. Yeah, when I fell to the floor, I noticed there was no light below the door. Given how dark the room had become, I thought the hallway must have been just as dark. The smoke was released at the same time, even though both places looked empty. What the fuck is this about? That woman disappeared, but she fell unconscious too, didn't she? And you're right, why is no one else here? Although those points were very strange, I was still relieved that none of us had been harmed. I lay on the floor for a bit, attempting to gather more strength. Moment, also das schreiben wir auf, ich schreibe auf, dass es mehr Quellen gegeben haben muss für den Rauch. When thoughts came to me, it was helpful to realize that they were different from what had recently filled my head. This room connects two parallel hallways, which were attacked alongside this room all at once. What was this done to isolate us? Someone attacked the building, so still with Sekimeya, right? It must be the intention. The smoke found an easy path for whoever had planted to make their way here. Obtain with Sekimeya and leave. It sounds like a messy, risky plan, but it's the obvious thing that comes to mind. The open door seems to back it up, even though Naomi must have left through one anyway. Do I have to conclude that Naomi was part of this, and while we were out, she took with Sekimeya and left, making herself look suspicious immediately? Being a staff member, she had known many things about the security system, and we were the first group to enter, meaning out of us four, she was the only one that wasn't part of the first visit coincidentally. Alle Achtung! Die Theoriestunde beginnt schon jetzt. Und oh, jetzt fängt es schon an. Aber so richtig. Or could I say that if I knew Akao at all, I did think he looked distant from everything else. Maybe Akao was aware of the fact the smoke would appear. He could have immediately faked his unconsciousness by throwing himself to the floor, knowing he would avoid breathing in anything from the upper half of the room. The fact the floor is very stained proves the smoke never came down. Once through all of it, he obtains the Sekimeya. I should also consider that the smoke first arose shortly after Naomi unlocked the cabinet. It doesn't mean much, given that she could have had her key taken after she was unconscious. But if whoever did this didn't know much about the cabinet's mechanisms, it makes sense they waited until it was unlocked. But how did they know exactly when that was? Doesn't this mean that they must have been inside the room? Or again, doesn't this mean that only Akao could have done it? I think this precise timing actually happened. How did he trigger the smoke? It could simply be that he gave some sort of signal to someone else outside, but friends aren't around here. Oh, jetzt wird es schon komplex. Oh. Moment. Okay. Also Moment, lass uns zusammenfassen. Moment. Okay. Moment, warte. Oh. Moment, jetzt kommen die Fragen. Also, wann wusste der Angreifer, dass das Kabinett geöffnet wird? Vielleicht, also das Wahrscheinlichste ist immer noch, dass Naomi, dass der Titerin war. Ich verwechsel immer die Namen, okay? After he gained consciousness, he seemed to be perfectly fine physically. However, the mass difference between his body and our 19-year-old one is significant. It makes sense that the substance had a somewhat weaker effect on him. Also, so alt sieht mir nur auch wieder nicht aus. Is the car in possession of his Sekimeya right now? Why did he leave it somewhere? If so, why did he come back? Only to avoid suspicion? But this doesn't explain Naomi's disappearance. And how did the smoke appear? Or why did the alarm sound late? And what kind of risky plan is this? I grimaced. I was getting carried away without realizing how far it was going. In the first place, it was ridiculous to expect anyone until I had information. I knew I could never let things remain as they were. Someone was responsible, and I wouldn't let them get away. I only had to bide my time. Before I could stand, there was another avenue open to me. There was a security camera on the ceiling. If someone was looking at the footage and the smoke came out of an automated system, this would make a lot more sense. But Akira would have simply been the one to wait for the automated smoke and then follow up with whatever plan they had. This must have happened during the first visit for a reason. Right? It means that whoever was looking at the direct footage would have been the one to activate the smoke system. Wait. Okay, right. I was thinking that again. Almost like a coping mechanism. I had to make sure I was really okay for anything else. Moment. Also nochmal die Situation. Jemand, der die Kameraaufnahme gesehen hat, musste den Rauch aktiviert haben. When I took the tools in my head, my body thankfully obeyed. I stared at the curtain that concealed the so-called Sekimeya. It was dark, and the substance the smoke was composed of had thread on it. Can you stand up? I think so. Supporting each other, Shoria and I slowly steadied ourselves. When I realized Akara had gone to the hallway. Finally! Thank goodness! Wer war das denn? A shot came from the same area. It was a feminine voice, which at least indicated we weren't alone. We walked into it slowly as I wiped more of the solidified substance of myself. I was curious to see if the Sekimeya was still in the cabinet, but we would find out very soon regardless. The hallway was almost as dark as the room. The smoke has coated every light bulb, but since there were many of them, some light could have made it past the barrier. The smoke had created a through cover on the walls and ceilings, which must have been an intended result. It set up a darker environment, but what could have been with sole purpose? Something had been added to the smoke to create the same effect on every surface it touched. Close to the start of the hallway, near a door Naomi had first appeared through, I saw human figures. Our approaching footsteps were noticed by one. It rose on its knees. Oh, wie sieht der alte Typ aus? Er sieht aus wie eine Figur von Tumblr. We got closer and saw two more people kneeling down. Akara was with them, and after finally arriving where we were, I noticed a small body on the floor. Isla's finally waking up, thank God. That woman was the person we had heard. She had the little girl on her left and was looking at her closed eyes with concern. I see, so you were but we were also unable to evacuate. The person who had stood up was a well-dressed old man. As he said that, the two kneeling people turned their heads to face us. Also außer den ersten Buchstaben des Namens kenne ich den Namen überhaupt nicht. But the words unable to evacuate were more ominous than I expected, especially due to his rough voice. Is she okay? I think so. She finally breathing fine. She sat next to the others and worriedly looked at the girl who had been called Isla. Next to them was a guy my age who was staring at the girl in silence. Smoke appeared out of nowhere and knocked us down. Do you know what happened? I'm afraid I don't. You were in the event room, right? Should another woman be with you? Naomi, yes. She was gone when we woke up. Despite the dim light, I was able to discern his frown. I'm pretty sure she passed out too, but the door to our hallway was open when we woke up. She left while you were still unconscious? That's strange. I inspected the floor a bit and didn't find her. Is that strange? Maybe she exited the building entirely. When his look lowered again, I realized there was something very important that we were missing. Why was nobody else there? Why had the unconscious shot not been taken outside at the very least? She couldn't have left. If she fell unconscious like the rest of you, she still has to be here. What? The man didn't answer immediately, so I took that time to look him over. Due to the lighting, I had just gotten the impression that he was a simple, well-dressed old man. But those were casual clothes. Ach nee! Ach wirklich! Welchen Job könnte er bloß nur haben? Did all of you hear the alarm that played through? Oh, mine. Did all of you hear the alarm that played throughout the building? After I heard it, I saw all the smoke. Those words made me consider an important detail. This shirt was white and a lot less strained than ours. Oh, stimmt, indicating that it hadn't been hit by the smoke during its release. In contrast, the woman and the other guy had the same smoke pattern we did, being more stained on their top halves. I am responsible for this building's security system. When the smoke appeared, I was in the security room, found in the other hallway. Ach, das erklärt, warum er nicht voller Schmutz ist. Since today was a special day, most of the visitors here in the lobby are waiting for return from the event, so I had no problems leaving safely when we saw the smoke. You might know that this tower has many floors, but only this one is open to the public, and no one was on the higher levels. Wait, was? It was a big shock to see all that smoke, so I panicked and spent a while in the security room trying to figure out what had happened. When I realized I couldn't get anywhere, I exited and began searching through this floor. It seems we all were the first two groups of three for today's event. Moment, wie viel Zeit ist vergangen? 30 Minuten, alles klar. Yes, we were told to wait here after the first group moved forward. Wer ist das nochmal? Oh, that's right, I remember seeing her earlier. Now I look at her closer. also recalled seeing the three of them behind us in the lobby. I was still trying to understand the older man's words. Und viel wichtiger ist, wo ist ihr Mann, Alter? Wo ist das ihr Mann? Aber ich glaube eher nicht. Muss natürlich eine alleinerziehende Mutter sein. Mann, die braucht echt einen Mann in ihrem Leben. I was still trying to understand the older man's words. Ach ja, übrigens, auch Männer brauchen Frauen in ihr Leben. Nicht, dass ich sexistisch bin oder so. Wo war ich nochmal? Ach ja. I was still trying to understand the older man's words. Well, as he had said, the security room was in the other hallway. At the same time, we cleaned the rest of the smoke off our bodies until only a few traces remained. Echt? Ich komme nicht drauf klar, wie komisch die Nase der Security-Typin ist. You said you saw the smoke, but your clothes are much cleaner than ours. Did it not hit you? That's right. I didn't leave the room while it was in the hallway. When I said I saw the smoke, I was talking about the security cameras. Oh, I see. So, he was the person I had just accused in my head. I wasn't able to figure out anything out through the cameras, unfortunately. When I left a few minutes later, I saw all the walls were black. I knew he was slowly giving me information, so I didn't want to interrupt him. However, more questions were coming to my mind, such as why he hadn't come across our group first. Wait, you saw what the hallway looked like? You saw what the hallway looked like after you left the security room? Don't you have enough security cameras to see it from there? I couldn't help myself from asking for details. The more I tried to cause groupings, the more I resisted it. I needed to know as much as possible. No, the thing is, we can use this after the smokes appeared. Was?
Okay. Lass mich zusammenfassen. Also dieser Typ.
Moment, ich lese zu Ende. It instantly covered the lens of every camera that was hit by it. Also nochmal zum Verständnis. Der Security-Typ hat den Rauch von dem Security-Raum aus gesehen und dann hat er alles durchsucht und hat nur die zweite Gruppe gesehen. That makes sense. It must be why the smoke created this film on every surface it touched. It worked to disable the cameras. Yes, while I was there, I had no way to know what was happening in the hallways or in the event room. I took my time to look at the footage of all the other rooms, but I didn't see anything suspicious at all. No people either. But it should get into what's most important. The alarm that played wasn't your usual emergency alarm. It was one that hadn't played before. Was? Wie konnte ein unbekannter Tool gespielt werden? Oops. I said in the security room out of panic, but that's not all. Even if I had left, it would have been pointless. One of the special functions of the alarm is to shut down all methods of escape. Was für ein scheiß Alarm ist das, Alter? Sollten Alarms nicht dazu genutzt werden, dass man, ich weiß nicht, rauskommt aus der Gefahr? Was ein scheiß Museum. Zuerst war die Warteschlange nervig lang und dann das noch. Also ich würde diesem Museum eine 0 von 5 Sternen geben. Which means that we have no way to leave this building and that people outside can't enter. Yeah, that is dumb! Also, although I've been kind of anticipating those words, it was still a heavy blow.
Eine Ewigkeit später.
So, da bin ich wieder. Tut mir leid, ich musste die Aufnahme kurz stoppen, weil mich jemand von Discord angerufen hat. Also, zurück zum Thema. Although I had been kind of anticipating those words, it was still a heavy blow. Shuri and I looked at each other. It seemed everything insisted on getting worse. Hang on. What the fuck? We're trapped in here? How long does it close the exit for? Why? And why is there no way to undo it or contact the outside? It closes all the exit routes for 12 hours. 12 Stunden, ja, geil! The reason as to why is a bit complicated and for our purpose confidential. I'm sorry, but I can't into that. Warum nicht, Alter? Die Leute könnten sterben durch eure scheiß Maßnahmen, Alter. As for a way to contact the outside, there should be one. We can try it. Shura listened very well, and Akao seemed to be in complete disbelief at what he was hearing. Hey, it's going to be fine, okay? Yeah, okay. I turned back to the others. Barring Akaro, none of them seemed very surprised at the situation. Is this not a shock for you? I already told them, getting Isla out of here would normally have been the first thing any of us would have done. It seemed like the first type of building to have medical equipment stored in it, so the woman must have immediately tried to extract who I could only assume was her daughter. Ja, und gerade habt ihr doch erzählt, dass die Tür zumacht. Und auch erzählt davon, dass ihr alle die Kinder befreit. There was no reason to think that some secret entrance existed, so I more or less had to assume that we really were trapped for half a day. The existence of such an alarm seemed absurd, but it also might have succeeded at trapping whoever been responsible for the smoke. So, you're right, Naomi still has to be here. Is that everyone? I can tell most people were in the lobby. But if someone else entered the hallway, we couldn't have accurate either. Is it possible that the smoke in the hallway wasn't as dense, which gave people time to run from it before the alarm went off? No, that can't be. Jetzt, das? The guy who made quite finally spoke. Ach ja, danke. We were right here when the smoke appeared. The moment we inhaled a bit of it, we were out like a light. We pretty much collapsed instantly. I see. Well, I couldn't tell you. From what I could see from the other rooms in the hallway were clean. If someone had been in one, we were definitely trapped too. I could recall that the alarm played approximately 20 seconds after the smoke's appearance, but it was unlikely that had been enough time for it to entirely dissipate. I can't believe that you were telling us. What the fuck does it mean? Why are we trapped here? I sincerely apologize. I'm confused as well, but there's nothing I can tell you. We'll have to be here all day while I try to figure out what happened. My name is Katekuchi. Danke für den Namen. It was ridiculous, but we couldn't do anything about it. After a period of silence where nobody knew how to react, the woman spoke. She's Isla, my daughter. She's unconscious since the smoke appeared, but her breathing's steady now. I'm happy now. I'm Shiroya, and my name's Atsuki. We came here together. How old is she? She will be 10 in a bit more than a week. Her birthday is 2 days before Christmas. Realizing the rest of his group had introduced itself, the guy followed. I'm Sai. Sai. We looked back at the man separated from us. Akaro. Immediately, the silence returned. What the hell had happened? I thought back on the wordless alarm that had locked us in. A community with zero information, seemingly only designed to tell us that we had been trapped. It made sense if the couple was one of us, but not even the staff member who was still here had any idea who it could have been, which made things difficult. At the time of the attack, it had to be the Sekimeya. There was no way it wasn't related. The very first showing of a newly discovered gemstone being interrupted, it meant only one thing. We hadn't checked whether the Sekimeya was still in the room. We were confident that it was still in the building with us, even if it had been taken out of its cabinet. The attack had been deliberate. That was the most important point. Whoever was responsible, I wanted to find them out and expose them. It was deeply personal. Deeply personal? Was hat der Stein mit dir zu tun? Sorry, too bad, der musste sein. We all glanced at Isla's painted face. After the second cough, she proceeded to slightly open her eyes. Isla, finally, are you okay? How do you feel? Agnes' sudden outburst seemed to confuse her daughter. She raised her head and blinked blurredly at all of us. Looking back at her mother, she coughed quickly again and spoke. Where are we? What are we doing here? Her disorientation definitely wasn't helped by the fact that all the walls were stained black. Shiroya seemed like she wanted to say something, but she held back and let Una speak. We are still inside Ashina Tower. Do you remember all that smoke? It knocked us out and we were the last one to wake up. Area stroked Isla's hair gently und erotisch. Okay, nein, das war ein Scherz. Bitte nicht, Pädophilie ist scheiße. We seemed to soothe her. Weren't we going to see the Sekimeya? Ich meine, weren't we going to see the Sekimeya? I'm trying to remember what happened after that, but you can't. Did you ever do that? No, sweetie. We were waiting for that in the stray hallway and the smoke came out. Do you not remember? Oh, smoke? I'm not sure. Is this that hallway? Why is everything black? That's us. That's also the smoke's doings. It said everything it touched. Shiroya finally spoke up. Isla seemed to realize that everyone had faint black stains on their clothes. So she looked down at her own to find them almost completely clean. At her head had been permanently affected, but area had evidently ripped off the remnants already. Do you feel okay? You've been out for a long time. I was really worried. Sorry, I think I feel okay, but then my head hurts. But why are we here? Why is there no light? And why are we alone? We all looked at each other, and for a few seconds, nobody knew how to answer. Katie, wer war nochmal Katie? Ach, der Security-Mann, ja. Katie quickly decided it was his job to do so. We're not aware of what caused the smoke, but it was triggered a special alarm that shut down all entrance and exit methods. That means that we have to stay here for the next 12 hours. It's possible there's only 8 of us who didn't evacuate in time. We all slightly lowered our heads, unsure whether this abrupt explanation had been a good idea to direct the kid who had just woken up. Aber wie viele Personen haben wir schon gesehen? Das Kind, die Mutter, irgend so ein weißhaariger Typ, ein großer Typ, alter Mann, Bier, Aqua und ja, es sind 8. Isla processed that information in silence for a minute. I didn't expect she'd take it well. But against my own prediction, she passively tossed out some words in response. Oh, oops. Fail.
Oh, I see. What are we going to do then?
I was relieved that she hadn't reacted badly. She had taken something like that could have gone much worse. Sadly, there's not much to do here. This first floor is filled with exhibition rooms. It's officially called the Crystal Floor. It refers to all the jabs. Workplace floors are nothing but offices. I'm afraid we're as interesting as they sound. Oops, mein Fehler. They're offices? Does that mean that we could use them to communicate with the outside? Is that what you meant earlier when you said that could be possible? Oh no, usually that would be the case, but the local internet connection is just something that the alarm shuts down, precisely to block all communication methods. Also bei uns in Deutschland ist das Internet immer scheiße. Außer vielleicht in Schleswig-Holstein, da ist es noch gut. Ach ja. Ich dachte schon, dass die Museumsräume Büros sind. Ich habe mich verlesen. You people cut the internet too? Is that only going to come back when the exit opens? Yes, we can't access it until then. There's no phone either. I don't have mine here. Wie kacke vorbereitet seid ihr bitte, Alter? Also, bei so einer Scheiß-Sicherheit würde ich mich echt umbringen, Alter. What did you mean, then? How do we have any way to speak to anyone outside? The room where I work, the security room, has a function that lets us enable communication with the outside. That one should not be out of commission. That is slightly relieving. If we could talk with people and understand the situation better, that would make the wait much more bearable. However, it seems strange to me that a communication method will be disabled. Entirely blocking off the exit and shutting down the internet connection seemed to indicate the goal was to fully isolate the interior. Leaving one method available didn't fit, which meant that it wasn't only one anyone would know how to access. Oops. Isla stood up and brushed herself off. She seemed ready to say something else, but a nearby sound startled us. Also ich höre nix. We turned to face it and we were met with a door opening. It was the one that led to the lobby. Was steht auf dem Shirt? Ich sehe nichts. Had someone else gotten trapped? I thought that until I saw say next to the door. Then I realized that he hadn't said anything since he told us his name. His left hand was gripping the knob. Where are you going? It looked like we were all a little confused that we had been about to leave without warning. Hit. I'm going to check the lobby. I'm not doubting that Kitty had said, but I hadn't personally seen the exit closed, so I'm curious if it could be first open, for example. Nobody said anything. Instead, everyone but Julia, who was still sitting down, began to slowly walk to the door. I took the opportunity to pull her aside and check on her. Das war ich meine, ach jo, das ist nichts, das war nichts, Shiroya, Wesen macht der this was a deliberate attack, and I want to find out who did, if I can. Are you can with that? Why are you asking me that? If you want to just hold up in a room for 12 hours, I respect it, but I don't want the person of people responsible getting away, and I think you feel the same way. Yeah, I just don't want you to get caught in something dangerous, Atsuki. It's not like I'm some detective, I know that, but if I notice something lying or find out something I want to know. I just figure if we really are trapped here, we could keep track of what happens. The culprit must have gotten trapped, so we can't trust anyone here. I know usually the police would handle this, but if the cameras are all covered, there might be no records. And if it got away, I would. Oh. I knew perfectly well what she was meant without her finishing the sentence. I'm hoping that whoever did this was stupid enough to get caught on the camera before what happened. But we will see. I know you're right, we're not the police. I just don't know who we can trust. Sorry, I'm just trying to process everything. I didn't mean to be so quiet until now. I feel the same way you do. Maybe I feel worse actually. I hate this. I want this to be over. Yeah, me too. Me too! Let's get going. I helped Jura to her feet, and we headed to where everyone else had gone. As we had stepped into another world, the lobbies looked almost as it had been where we had last been, where the lights were blackened, but some had been turned off. Most likely automatically. Was ist das bitte für ein Satz? Ach so, ach, die waren nicht schwarz angemalt. Ich habe mich verlesen. Schon wieder. Only a bit of a smoke had sneaked through the gaps of the doors, forming a dark outline around them. That would have been all if it weren't for the metal shutter blocking the door we entered through. Aside from the reception desk, the only things of note in the room were the couch and cleaning bucket. Everyone seemed to have lapsed into silence except for Kate, who simply appeared as if he didn't know what to tell us. Oh, guess no way we're opening that. Isn't it a bit excessive? Why would they trap us like this? I agree that this looks over the top. I agree that this looks over the top, but I'm afraid the same has occurred with every window of the tower, and all the blockades are designed to not let sound pass. I won't be leaving the area when intended. I apologize that this has happened. Can't you at least tell us why? Why is there a metal shutter here? This doesn't look normal. Sorry, musste husten. My apologies, but as I said earlier, I'm not allowed to supply information. Warum nicht, Alter? But don't misinterpret it. Even though I could give you some details, I'm mostly kept in the dark when it comes to knowing the reasons. I'm only charged with making the service system is functional, so I won't be able to tell you much about what you want to know. What details you know? Then look at it from our perspective. We deserve the basics. I understand, I promise. However, I can't say anything. We all felt this need to sigh. Knowing information was being kept for us wasn't a pleasant thought. It disrupted any cooperation we might have wished for. Und das Schlimmste ist, dass sie alle eine schlechte Bewertung abgeben für das Museum, sodass niemand euer scheiß Museum wir besuchen, Alter. However, it would have been pointless to press the issue further. 12 hours it is then. After saying that, he walked up to the shutter and tried to move it aside to confirm that it was as sturdy as it looked. Wie lange dauert das noch? Okay. Und ich glaube, das ist ein sehr guter Zeitpunkt, um diese Aufnahme jetzt zu beenden. Ich wünsche euch ich wünsche dann noch viel Glück. Nee, was sagt man eigentlich, wenn man das Let's Play beendet? Ach ja, auf Wiedersehen und auf Wiedersehen zum nächsten Part. So.